You know, in Florida, they had mandatory drug testing for cash benefit recipients in that state. There are 4,100 of them, roughly, statewide, in the entire state. And 108 of them failed the test, which means in the neighborhood of 4,000 of them passed the test. And the 108 who failed the test, almost all of them were for pot use, which could have been just they walked through a room where somebody was smoking, the way those tests work. But in any case, Florida, you have to reimburse somebody who passes the test for the $30 cost of the test. So the state had to reimburse $118,140, which cost the state $45,780 more than the benefits that they told people they couldn't get because they'd failed the drug test. Clearly, this does not pass the "is this good public policy or does this make fiscal sense" classical so-called conservative test. It looks to me like this is punishment.
Tom, that may be very well the case. My argument is not that it should be instituted everywhere. I merely think that if it was cost-effective, which there are, as you mentioned, examples where it was not cost-effective, but if it is cost-effective, the state should have the prerogative to do it. But I don't see anything that's outlandish about it.
Here's what's outlandish about it, Jamie. Sure. There's a stigma associated with being drug tested. Can you imagine the response in this town if the federal government passed a law that said that anybody who goes on television or radio has to be drug tested first, or anybody who works as a lobbyist has to be drug tested first?
The comparison doesn't.
Or legislators have to pee in the cup every morning when they show up for work.
Well, maybe legislators is a good comparison. The other two weren't particularly great comparisons. The question is whether the government is giving money, welfare, the American people have to give money to those who are on drugs. I don't think it's a natural right that those who take drugs should be able to get money or deserve money from the government. I don't think that's a natural born right that they have.
So I think you're saying that if somebody is poor and they're suffering from the disease of drug addiction, to hell with them, we're going to make their life even more miserable and we're not going to treat them.
Well, actually, in the example that you're citing, Tom, I'm not exactly sure why you're upset with Ohio. Ohio doesn't even seem to be a case where they're doing this for fiscal reasons. They're doing this according to the law, the legislation, from what I can tell, is to help people get off of drugs. They have set aside money.
Well, that's because they were shamed into it, Jamie. When the original law was proposed, it was a clone of the Florida law.
That's what it is now. But so if it was changed. It
still carries that stigma. It still says, "Oh, you want some welfare benefits? You're going to have to pee in the cup." What happened to our saying, "We are so great a country, we are so rich a country, we are so noble a country that we don't want to have pockets of horrible grinding poverty in this country. We're not going to. There's a certain net that we're not going to let people fall through."
And I don't think it is, again, a natural born right that says that if you are in poverty and you're doing drugs at the same time, that the government needs to subsidize that. I don't think that the government has an obligation to subsidize that. And I think it's the right of states, should they decide it's cost effective, to drug test people. Now, again, in this Ohio bill, Tom.
But you're talking about forcing everybody who's getting benefits.
In this Ohio bill, it's actually, from what I can tell, has nothing to do with economic matters at this point. It's basically to try to wean people off drugs. You said, this disease, do you want to hurt people with this disease of drug abuse? Well, in Ohio, what the legislation is designed to do, I just don't understand why you oppose it. This is something that would seem to be up your alley.
If the Republicans in Ohio are so committed to helping people who are drug abusers, why not have everybody in the state be forced to pee into a cup?
Because they don't have that would be kind of, I think, overstepping their bounds of forcing everybody to do something. I don't think that would be even constitutional.
You ever been forced to take a drug test, Jamie?
No.
Okay.
I wouldn't mind it. I mean, I have no problem. People that
you have no problem with somebody following you into the bathroom once a month and watching you pee into a cup.
It would be a choice. If I were to work at the Daily Caller, I'm going to say, you can work here, but if you do, you have to take a drug test. And then I would have a choice whether I want to work at the Daily Caller and subject myself to that. For instance, I am a huge boxing fan. I, this weekend, just watched Manny Pacquiao fight Juan Miguel Marquez. Both of them have to take drug tests, certainly after they fight.
Yeah, but they were not looking for recreational drugs. They were looking for performance-enhancing steroids.
Actually, in the case, that's true, but it's also recreational drugs.
Yeah, but that's kind of thrown in after the fact. You and I both know if it wasn't for steroids, there would be no drug testing.
Chavez Jr., one of the great boxers, the son of the legendary Chavez, recently had a major fight, and he had pot. He has found out that he had pot in his system, and he's been, I think, barred from Vegas fighting for a year.
Yeah, but as I said, that was basically added on. The whole drug test athletes thing was all about performance enhancing drugs. And then the drug testing industry got on board with this. I've seen this industry grow, Jamie.
The point is that if they think it's an invasion of their privacy to get drug tested, they have a choice. In the case of Manny Pacquiao and Juan Miguel Marquez, they can forgo millions of dollars that they can earn, or they can take the drug test. They chose to do it. This happens on a much smaller level here with people with the jobs they take, and in this case, in some cases, some states want to have welfare recipients
Why do you care?
I don't care that much.
A welfare recipient might be smoking pot.
I don't follow this issue very much. I'm for drug legalization. I don't have a moral problem with people taking drugs, but I don't think it's necessary that the government should subsidize it. I don't endorse doing
Actually,
drugs. It's a bad idea.
But Jamie, the position that you're taking is that your tax dollars and my tax dollars should be taken from us at gunpoint to pay to drug test somebody who's not earning an income.
Wrong. Our tax dollars are being taken from us
by force, and they're being used to pay for those drug tests.
Right. No, they're also being used to give to the welfare recipients.
Well, set that aside for a moment. Why would you want our tax dollars being used to drug test anybody who is not driving a car or operating dangerous equipment?
First of all, you're acting like I'm advocating this as a great policy proposal. I'm saying that
you are.
I'm not. I'm saying if it makes sense on a state level for fiscal reasons, which there's evidence,
which has never been demonstrated. In fact, in Florida, they found it didn't make sense.
And I'm not just saying it has. I'm saying if it does, and there's evidence, as you suggest, it doesn't. I think it's the state's right, well within their rights to do it. I have no moral objection to demanding people take drug tests before they get money from the state. So I have no moral objection to it. I'm not advocating it as a matter of good policy.
I'm telling you, Jamie,
that is up to each state to decide.
In my opinion, this is about two things. It's one, about further demeaning people who are already down on their luck. Well, actually, and number two, you've got this industry that is very, very wealthy. They sell 15 cents worth of chemicals for $35.
Well, Thom, I can't imagine why you oppose the law in Ohio. It seems to only be trying to help people wean themselves off
because
drugs.
It only applies to people who are on welfare. If you want to find the people who are taking drugs and help them, drug test everybody in the state.
So it's giving a benefit to them. It's only helping those who are on welfare.
Okay. We'll